Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. This is KLOS New and Approved. Excited that my guest is none other than guitarist Mike Campbell. Mike, it's so great to see you, man. I've got to tell you, I've got a pretty incredible story about, my background with you starts, as a teenager, when I'm like 16 years old, because, you know, how I discovered Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, there was a Dutch compilation album that I bought called Gief voor New Wave that had,
I remember that.
remember that
Geek
record?
for New Wave, yeah.
And it had anything that's rock and roll on the end of the first side. And I heard that song and I went, I fell in love with it. I went, who are these guys? Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. And I'm a teenage kid. I'm probably like 15,
Yeah.
16 maybe. And then I found a 7-inch of Breakdown at the record store. And then I decided to, as a kid does, because I'm working, part-time jobs. I picked up the very first album and absolutely fell in love with the band. So in love with the band that you might remember in New York City there was that station WPIX. It was like 78 to 80, and
Yeah.
I bought a row of tickets for your New York Palladium show for You're Gonna Get It for that release.
Wow.
An entire row. And of course, I made my friends pay me back because I was a working class dude. I wasn't like I didn't have like a lot of money. I'm like, you guys want to go? You're gonna pay. But it was phenomenal. And it started a with the first time. It started a lifelong love of you with Tom Petty and Heartbreakers and everything that you did. I followed. So it's amazing
Thank
to
you.
actually get to tell you that I've been your fan for most of my life. So it's great that we're finally getting to talk to each other. And I've seen you live so many times, but it's I'm so happy to have you on the show and to be able to hang out and talk to you.
Oh, that's really sweet, man. I appreciate that. I love that Palladium back in the day. We had some great shows there. What a cool venue.
Wasn't that a great venue? It was like
Yeah, it was really cool.
yeah, and it was called before that. I think the New York Academy of Music. But then it was the Palladium. But the Palladium was the show. Was when you guys had come out.
Yeah.
From the very first record. But
We were just getting started.
yeah, it's incredible looking back. So you were like,
Yeah.
hey Mike, I know we're going to talk about the new stuff too, but so you were like born in like Panama City. That's where you're from. But you also spent a lot of time in Jacksonville, right? Because I have a lot of family there.
That's true. I was born there, but I was an Air Force brat, so I never spent time there. But I spent time in Orlando up through junior high, and then I moved up to Jacksonville, where my mom is from, where my parents divorced, and I lived in Jacksonville through high school. I went to Ribault High School out there on the north side by Trout River, and that's where I started learning how to play guitar. Was when I was in Jacksonville, teenage kid.
That is so cool. I love the story and and then how you guys all met and formed Mudcrutch at first too, which was great.
Yeah.
I was one of those. You're gonna laugh at this too. I know this is funny. We'll get into the interview side, but I'm gonna show you what a geek major fan I was. Like, I bought that.
Okay.
Do you remember that one-sided on Shelter official live leg that had like?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It was recorded in Boston.
yeah, it was great. It had Jaguar and Thunderbird and the original
Exactly.
version.
Yeah.
Dog on the Run
Dogs
on it.
the Run was on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that, man. That's how, and then like I found a bootleg. There were bootlegs of the Depot Street single. So I'm like, anything Tom Petty and Heartbreakers. I was like, it was such a big deal for me. So
Let me tell you a quick story about that bootleg, official live leg.
yeah.
We played a place called Paul's Mall, which held about 20 people,
Yeah.
and they had a particle board ceiling. And I was the guitar tuner back in the day. It's before guitar tuner, so I'd tune everything. Anyway, we're playing, and I went to change guitars, and I put my guitar like this. It went into the ceiling, stuck. And so I was trying to get it loose. I pulled it down, and a dead rat fell on the stage.
Oh my God. Right. It's amazing. And that's in
That's
Boston.
starting at the bottom. Yeah.
That's amazing. While you're playing the show, and what's funny about that is like in a town where they actually have a venue called the Rat, which is like pretty crazy.
Oh yeah.
As well. But that's a great story. So, Mike, there's so much to talk about, but I gotta say, External Combustion is a really great new album, and
Thank you.
I was excited about it. This being your second album, with this crew and this lineup. Tell me how you got together with the Dirty Knobs and everybody in the band, like, and where you met these.
Well, it was very organic and accidental. I was between Heartbreakers tours, and I would sometimes go to studios and meet up with friends. And the guitar player showed up one day at my engineer's studio, and we got talking, and we hit it off. and we started recording a little bit. And then my roadie said that he knew a drummer that was good, who happens to be Matt Log, our drummer, and he knew a bass player. So they came over one day just to record some of my demos, and there was my band. I didn't go looking for a band; they just sort of appeared.
That's really cool that it worked out that way. And that was like
Yeah,
15 years ago, right? Wasn't that like 15 years ago or something like that?
Yeah, 15 or 20. Yeah, it's been a while. And we would always play between Heartbreakers tours. We'd go out and play little bars and try out new songs. And we became a real band. We have that telepathy that only comes with time.
It's great because, obviously your musical taste has always been, so varied and all over. And, like when you would do things like Count 5 Psychotic Reaction, which is just,
Yeah.
classic 1966 garage rock band from Santa Barbara, like all those things I grew up on as a little kid. I loved all those records, you know what I mean? And all that.
Yeah, we're children of the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the best time, though. That was the absolute best time to be a kid and learning guitar, because it was really a renaissance of cool bands.
Who were your favorites back then, Mike? Who did you love? I mean, we certainly could talk about all those singles that came out of that scene, like Count 5, Music Machine, Blues Magoos, all that stuff. Bubble Puppy later, like all that stuff. Remember that Hot Smoking Sassafras?
Oh yeah.
But I'm just using those are like those kind of like, But who were like the bands that you loved when you were picking up the guitar? Was
right. Well, my first feeling for the guitar came from my dad playing Johnny Cash records around the house and Elvis records. I've heard the guitar. But what really got me going was the British bands. When the Beatles, the Stones, the Animals, the Kinks, the Zombies, the Hollies, the Yardbirds. I mean, it was so many great bands with great guitar players back then. It really was amazing.
It was incredible, that is the truth. I mean, I love that era because I was a little kid coming up through that, and that's when I was introduced to AM radio, and I loved all those records. I just couldn't. Yeah. I couldn't find enough money to buy every single that I just, we just, and then once I could mow lawns and deliver papers, it got a little bit.
Well, you
easier.
remember, we're showing our age, but you remember back then, if you went to buy an album, for $1.98 you get the mono. And for $2.98, you get stereo.
Yeah, exactly. Albums like Aftermath.
I can never afford the stereo.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, you know what? This is good enough because I'll save that money and buy another record. That's incredible, So,
yeah.
So I mean, getting back to the Dirty Knobs. I mean, this second. And let me just say, Mike, anybody who has a song called "Fuck That Guy," which I loved on the last record.
Ooh, can we say that on KLOS? I don't know.
I'll bleep it, but I mean, it's pretty funny because I love that track. When I heard that, I went, "Oh, this is so great!" How many times have you said in your life, "Fuck that guy"? Especially if it was somebody who treated you like shit, or was an asshole. But I love that.
Somebody on the television. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or somebody. Yeah. Exactly. But I know where
I'm
I
not
came.
naming names.
Yeah. So can I talk about on this new record, which is really cool? Working with the people you worked with, Ian Hunter, absolutely love with Dirty Job. Like Mott the Hoople were a great band, and he's always just done some even his great solo stuff. Tell me, did you guys have a relationship from some earlier years when you first started going out with Petty? Did you like while he was a solo artist? How did that friendship actually happen?
Well, I don't have a friendship with him. I hope to have a friendship. I don't really know him. I know who he is because I was a big fan of Mott the Hoople and his voice and his style. He called my office. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Things just seem to drop in my lap. But he called the office, wanted me to overdub some guitar, and I never really met him. He sent me the songs, and they were incredible. I put some guitar and set it back. And then I cheekily asked him if he would consider singing on our record, and he was gracious. And did the one song. He put some Mott the Hoople piano on it, sang a verse and some harmonies. And I can't wait to meet him, to thank him in person.
Yeah, because I think you guys would get along great. He's a really cool, humble guy, man. He's down to earth.
Yeah, seems like he would be. Yeah, what a great artist, too.
Yeah, he's written a lot of incredible songs. And talk to me about Margot Price, too, because that's really cool. I want to talk about
that. Was a very similar story. Her and her husband wanted to do some songwriting, which I don't really do that much. But they came out and we did write a few songs and stuff. And I was working on my record in the next room and I had that track up and I said, well, would you consider singing on it? And she was gracious too. She came in and made the song twice as good with her voice, a harmony, and she sings a verse on there. And we just fell in love. She's a sweetheart and she's a real deal. She's got a real rock and roll soul, that girl.
Yeah, you know, I think she did a great job on the record too. It's got to
Yeah.
be one of the things that's interesting is, I mean, obviously for you and Tom and the rest of the guys, when you went to England the first time, and I know it's greatly documented in Running Down a Dream, but just the fact that you guys went over there and they were warm to you guys really first in the UK, and you being a big Anglophile, loving all that British music through
Yeah.
those years. What was that experience for you? Like the first time, did it feel like a holy grail kind of thing? Like, hey, we're in England. You know, what was that feeling like?
It was incredible, Matt, because we did have this romantic dream of, England and all those bands. We got to go over there in '77, right when the punk thing was kicking off. And we had our record out in the States, and it was just kind of Boston, San Francisco were playing it a little bit, but it wasn't really happening. And for some reason, the English press that year thought we were really cool. And we did a tour opening for Nils Lofgren, and the press loved us and built us up. And it gave us confidence, and it was just a trip like, wow, we're in England and they like us.
Yeah, which is cool.
How is that possible,
Yeah, and then you guys came back to the States, and of course, it's like you guys are really out hitting the trenches and starting out,
Yeah.
first album
It
on
gave us
Shelter.
a little momentum, and little momentum. We started getting better gigs, and people started to know who we were. It was quite a ride, yeah.
It was amazing for me because, I, as a big, huge fan of yours, was one of the things I said was whenever I got into radio, I was going to be able to play Tom Petty and Heartbreakers and play your music because I was disappointed that you wouldn't hear it on the radio in New York where you should have. I mean, maybe if they did play it, maybe they played it once in a while on EW. Yeah. Before Damn the Torpedoes, obviously that was the thing that pushed it over the edge. But it was cool that one station PX played all of You're Gonna Get It on one night at 10 o'clock. And I recorded it and brought it to school on like a boombox before they were called boomboxes in '78. So you know what I mean? Which is pretty,
like on a cassette.
Yeah, on a cassette.
Yeah.
But
cool, man.
But it was just like I play it for everybody. And the other thing that was incredible was it was the one thing that even like the kids that were jocks, the punk people that were like, I wouldn't really call them punk yet because punk hadn't really penetrated America yet, but there were people that were open to it. The Deadheads, it didn't matter. No matter what they were, they all kind of, when I play you guys for them, everybody immediately fell in love with it, which was so cool.
Yeah, some people called us punks, and some people, then of course they had this thing called New Wave that came on. They called us that for a while. They tried to put labels on us, but we're just a rock and roll band, really.
You really were, What were those sessions like in the very beginning, the early days for you, Mike, when you were recording with Denny Cordell for Shelter on those first couple records?
Oh, it was thrilling, because we were green. We were really green, and went to the studio with Denny Cordell, who gave us so much confidence. He believed in us, and he saw, a diamond in the rough, I guess, because we were pretty rough. And he polished us up and kind of led us in the right direction with our songwriting and our look and everything. He just was like our guru, especially with Tom. He kind of gave Tom a direction. And support and confidence was the main thing. He really made us feel like we were worthy. And we went in the studio with him, and we were just flying by the seat of our pants. We didn't know how to get a sound. We didn't understand the techniques. And we had to really, struggle for a while to get a sound that worked.
Yeah, I remember, seeing like a promo single in the college radio station of Roger McGuinn and Thunderbird covering American Girl, which was like, I was saying to myself, I go, love Roger McGuinn, love the Birds. Definitely an inspiration to Tom Petty and Heartbreakers, especially if you hear things, as like Listen to Your Heart or When the Time Comes and all those great songs. But
huge.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big influence. But that would have been wild. I was like, well, I hope, I thought it made a lot of sense. What was that like when somebody that you guys liked so much and it was such an inspiration covered that early on? What was that like for you?
It's it's an out of body experience, really, for us and for me, being a poor kid from Jacksonville.
Yeah. To
have these people that you idolized and were inspired by, and it's happened to me throughout my life. And I've been so lucky to. Roger was one of the first ones we met, who was a big hero and influence on me. And it's always like you have to almost pinch yourself, like, am I really here? Yeah. But then when they reciprocate with that, they like what you do. And eventually you break down all that facade, and it's just two musicians, interacting with each other. And that's what it was like with Roger. We just hit it off. And he is a huge influence on me. Still is. I love Roger, and that 12-string guitar just used to, give me chills every time I hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
So it was just, and the fact that he did one of our songs, it was just like, wow. We did a run at the Bottom Line where we both played together a couple of nights, and I think we opened for him, and we would each play American Girl, so you got to hear it twice each night.
That's amazing. It's Bottom Line. It was a cool little venue, the Bottom Line, back in the day.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
It was a great venue. Is it still there? Probably
no,
not.
It's not. But I used to be able to go there and see bands and eat as well. It was one of those places, but it was such a cool place in the West Village there.
Yeah.
In that period of time.
A great name too, the Bottom Line.
Yeah, the Bottom Line. It was an incredible name. I absolutely love it. For you, so Mike, for you, as you were, going as you were, things were taking off with Damn the Torpedoes when that finally broke through, and everything got out of the deal with Shelter, and Danny Bramson got involved, all these other people that Danny's an old friend. I found out all this stuff later. When I was a kid, I didn't know all. But I was growing. But Damn the Torpedoes, the band broke through in a big way with that record. What was one of the things you saw as a major change in that period of time? Just that you were getting airplay and people really knew your songs? Because before that, there were people that loved you guys like me, but all of a sudden it really started to happen then.
It did. It was a miracle. I mean, we were just sitting back, we thought we had a good record. And of course, Jimmy Iovine produced it. So he got that big sound. And, we were just kind of going along for the ride, like this is really happening. It looks like more people are going to catch on to us, and our audience grew. The gigs got a little bigger. Instead of playing the Bottom Line, we were playing the Palladium and then the Garden, and so things just started snowballing and growing. And we're just sitting back, going, "Wow, this dream is kind of coming true."
Yeah,
it was incredible. It's an incredible feeling.
It's got to be, and then you guys really made California your home. I mean, at that period of time, it had been for a little while, right?
Yeah.
But because there's a story about American Girl being written out there in Encino, but there's talk to me about that. Because Mike, you mean so much to so many guitarists that I know, and young guitarists and people that have been inspired by you for a very long time. What was it for you? Who were some of those people that you met besides the ones you collaborated with? Along the way that you tell me about a couple of those experiences of people like Roger, who you were a big fan of, and that you finally got to meet when things started to happen for the band.
Well, it's a pretty big list, and I'm blown away even when I mention their names. But of course, Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
we spent a lot of time with him. And George Harrison, I really connected with. He was so kind and sweet, and we would sit and play together and talk. Those two are the first two that come to mind. And of course, I ended up working with Johnny Cash, who was my dad's favorite artist, and he was so kind to me. And so many people along the way just popped up, that I was so enamored with, and I could hardly believe it was happening. But I just tried to put my nose down and do the best work for him I could do.
And you always do. I love obviously those tracks have become classics that you did with Don Henley, Boys of Summer, Heart of the Matter.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me about Boys of Summer, because this song is just it got this, even though it was an 80s track, it has a timeless feel because there's something about that song. Can you talk to me about the experience of working on that track with Don?
Yeah. I'll try to keep it short because the song has quite a little story to it. But in a nutshell, I did the music on my little 4-track at home, and Jimmy Iovine and Tom and I were working on one album. I forget which one it was, and I played it for Tom, which I always would do. And he said, "No, that's really good, but I don't think it fits on the record." And I agreed.
Was that Long After Dark? Was that around Long After Dark? Was that around Long After Dark?
Yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah. And so Jimmy Iovine called me about a week later and said that he knew Don Henley, who was looking for a song. And I thought of that track. And so I said, "Well, what kind of song does he want?" And he says, he wants an image maker. I thought he was going to say a ballad or a fast song, so the pressure was on. But I gave him the music and he wrote the lyrics. And we, struggled to beat the demo in the studio, which we eventually did. And, it's funny, Matt, certain songs, I don't know what that was. It was fairy dust that day,
Yeah.
They're accidental, they're magical. They're gifts from Lord knows where. They come to you and they happen and you channel it. And a song like that, it becomes, dare I say, kind of timeless. And I hear it now, and I still kind of get chills because I just love the way it feels. There's the spirituality in it, and the way the music fit his words, and a lot of luck, just luck that happened.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I look at all the different incredible collaborations. Was your dad still alive when you finally played with Johnny Cash?
Yes, just barely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's so proud. Both my parents were so proud of how things worked out for me.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I mean, working with Johnny, and the heroes that your father loved, that had to be an incredible thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mike, one of the things I've always loved is about when you perform on stage, I mean, the way you've always played is, I mean, you play and you make the song sail, but it's very melodic in what you do, and I think that's one of the things I've always loved about playing. Doing a song, by the time Full Moon Fever came out, and it was going to be a Tom solo record, but then it ended up not really being a solo record, and working with Jeff Lynne and running. Let's talk about Running Down a Dream, that track in particular. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, that was with Jeff Lynne, who I just love. It was so much fun working with him. He's so fast and brilliant with the recording techniques. And that song started with the riff, and then I had some other stuff that went on that I don't even remember at this point. But I guess Tom played that for Jeff. And between the two of them, they decided, well, let's take all these other bits out and just take the riff and build some other chords and put a song around it. And so they basically took the riff and turned it into a song. And we did it, we cut it, per Jeff Lynne's method, which is one instrument at a time, which is the way he likes to work, which is really interesting too. But it came time for the solo. The Heartbreakers songs rarely have an extended solo, just because that's not what I grew up on. All the bands I liked and try to emulate are the 60s bands where the solos are short. Anyway, This song had an ending that went on for a while. And so they said, well, let's just put a long solo on the end. So it was one of those lucky days where I played, off the top of my head 3 times in a row. We took the best bits of the 3 and stuck them together, and there it was.
Yeah, it came out unbelievable. I love that you say that you're doing that, keeping the lead short. And you think of things like I Can't Explain or Substitute or like those great Who songs where it's like, there's a measure for the lead, but it doesn't go, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, to get in and get out.
To get in and get out, but they're so memorable, and that's one of the things that I think has always been great that I've loved about the band.
Well, I heard a quote from Keith Richards that sums that up. He said, "Guitar solos come and go, but good riffs last forever."
Yeah, which is a perfect line, right? I mean, it's amazing.
Isn't that a great line? Yeah,
it really is. I love that. So, I love that you're getting out to play with Dirty Knobs, because I was all excited to come and see you play when. I think it was either Troubadour, when the whole, the pandemic came down, and I was really bummed out because I was going to get to meet you that night, and I was excited to see you play with the guys and hear the songs, and but it did give you time. Talk to me. I mean, on this record, on External Combustion, was there a lot of stuff that you worked out on during the pandemic? Were these some things you worked on following the last record?
Well, all of the above. There was one song called "It Is Written" that was written during the pandemic. "Wicked Mind" was written during the pandemic. Songs like "State of Mind" and "External Combustion" and "Cheap Talk," which also has Margot Price in it. Those 3 songs were found in my old analog vaults. My wife said, "You got to go through those tapes because there's gems in there." And I said, "No, that's old stuff." But I found those songs, I completely had forgotten about them, and I heard them, and I thought, well, these will fit in with the new record. So about half is new stuff. External Combustion, Electric Gypsy, the last song, was totally written in 5 minutes as the band walked in the studio. It was totally spontaneous. So half and half, new stuff and old stuff,
Yeah, it's amazing. The songs sound great. It's
fun.
It was obviously a surprise to everybody, I don't, but I'm just going to bring it up. I mean, losing Tom was just unbelievable for fans of yours and his for our entire lives. And but I mean, for you, Mike, did you at that period of time? I mean, the grief of one of your best friends in life, who you've been through absolutely everything with. Stepping back and taking a pause during a period like that, I'm sure, is something that you just have to do. How long was it for you where you felt like I'm ready to play some music again, and at that point?
Well, I knew immediately that I would still be playing music, but I was a little shook and needed some time just to process my grief. And but I intended all along to do my own band. I would, originally thought, well, when the Heartbreakers quit or stopped playing, I'll do this. And of course, then this time opened up. So that was my first thought. But honestly, I was maybe 2 months into my grief, and I got a phone call from Mick Fleetwood out of the blue. And that gig came along. We did a tour with Fleetwood Mac for about a year and a half. And that was really perfect timing. It gave me something to focus on and work through my grief over some time. I'm still working through it, but that helped me quite a bit.
I'm sure it did. How'd you like playing with Neil Finn and all those guys? And
oh, it was wonderful. Neil is so great in that rhythm section. Maybe the longest rock and roll rhythm section is still playing together. And they're just they were great to me. They treated me like a king, and they took us around the world, and it was just, the music was great. It was a challenge. I had to learn guitar parts that I didn't write, which I wasn't used to, but I dug in and did the best I could. And the tour was a total success. And I love those people. Of course, I have a relationship with Stevie that goes back several years, but I got along with Neil right away, and Mick and John and Christine. They were just great people.
That's amazing. I know you must have been obviously a fan of the Peter Green years too when you were younger, like
yeah.
Oh Well and the Green Monolici, and all those records are great. I mean, they're really cool. So to get to play a little of that stuff as well.
Yeah, we brought Oh Well back into the set per my request, and it was an honor to Peter Green, who was a great player. Yeah,
absolutely, he was. It's incredible. I love that you're getting out and doing shows. After all those years and all those tours with you and Tom, and me seeing you just like do some of the greatest covers, things you and I love, like those Bird songs, like "So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star," or "I'll Feel a Lot Better." The different things that you've done. I mean, you guys mined from that incredible era of the '60s that we love. Is there something that you had not done in that period, either with Tom or Mudcrutch, or not yet, you'd like to do with Dirty Knobs? Some things you'd like to play live or just do?
Oh yeah, I still mine our covers. The Dirty Knobs do covers here and there. We do feel a whole lot better sometimes.
Yeah,
we do Animals, a couple of Animal songs.
Well, you did Don't Bring Me Down way early,
and I'll do what I want. We do that one.
Yeah,
and the odd 60s song, and I do a few Heartbreakers things. I honor Tom every night and the band with a few things that the Dirty Knobs are really good at getting a handle on, and I can get across the vocal pretty good on those songs because I have the same cadence and nasal thing that Tom had, I guess, whatever. But
you do. I mean, there's definitely you're playing with a guy for 40 plus years or longer, and those songs, I mean, they're part of you, and you're absolutely.
And we grew up in the same area. We picked up the same inflections, and so I know those characters, and I enjoy doing those songs, and I want to keep those songs alive as well as promote my new record. So I do, maybe a couple, maybe 3 a night, and the fans love the old songs. They love remembering them, and it's great to honor Tom as well.
It really is, man. And you've got the 2 albums to pull from, and which is so great. And tell me about, was it fun to do the Mudcrutch thing again and say, hey, we're going to go back and do those songs? Because obviously a guy like me, like I said earlier, had the Depot Street single, and it was a bootleg because it was a white label somebody pressed up.
Really? Wow.
Can you believe that back in the day? Because I was trying to get a hold of anything you guys did. I was like, what
I'm impressed. Depot Street. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That was all Tom's idea to pull the Mudcrutch guys back, and he played bass in that band. And I was kind of surprised, because we were pretty busy. We had another Heartbreakers record to do and this and that. And he said, I really want to revisit that band. It was something cool about it, and I'd like to do something for the guys. And it turned out to be a real spiritual experience. We got the guys back together, and they play so good together. Tom got to play bass, and of course, there's another guitar player, Tom Ledden, who plays in Mudcrutch. So Tom went back to the bass, which he loved, and everybody sang a song here and there. And I think it was really fun for Tom to step back and not have to be him. You know,
Yeah.
he could be in a little band and just be the bass player and kind of just go along for a easy ride, you know.
Yeah, it was fun. It ended up being a great record and fun.
Yeah,
And
I'm proud of that.
I just loved, the fact that that all you guys could get back together and do that thing from where you guys originally.
Yeah,
formed.
it felt good to give to the other guys, give them a little glory and a chance to make a little money and show what they could do. So it was a brotherly thing as well. Yeah.
Which I think is great. I mean, that's cool. And I love that you talk about spirituality because I think it's really important. I mean, I think music is a very spiritual thing, and the spiritual experience comes from the music that you love. I mean, it's one of the greatest feelings.
It's powerful. You know, there's nothing like music. There really isn't. And that's why I still love doing it. You know, I can remember the first time I got in the garage and we were going to play, I don't know, Wipeout or Louie Louie. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And everybody started kicked in that feeling.
Yeah.
I still get that when the band starts off 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is again, that joy, you know, and there's nothing like it.
There really isn't, man. It's amazing. You know, I love to see you. I love watching you play. I mean, I always have. And I love that you're doing, like I said, these 2 Dirty Knobs albums. It's really cool. Is there anybody you've played as a guest? You play guitar on so many things. I mean, even Bad Religion you played on record. I mean, you play like, you know what I mean, which was really cool. And I've looked at, I've always kept track of everything you were doing, and I've just seen you play with a lot of different people. Is there anybody you would love to collaborate with, Mike, that you haven't yet? That's still living that you would, you know what I mean?
Well, oh sure. I mean, after Bob Dylan, it's all kind of downhill.
Yeah, because you guys loved him and the Birds, man, right? I mean,
I would love to work with Roger again, maybe. And of course, Mick and Keith, I would love to maybe someday work with them. I don't know if they'd want to work with me, but I would really be thrilled to do that. McCartney's probably a little out of my league, but somebody I respect tremendously. And I loved working with George. So I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't thought much about it, but those are the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, I mean,
Ian Hunter. I would like working with him some more. That was a joy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you loved Mott. Mott were a great band, man. They were underrated in this country. You know,
they had cool songs. Yeah,
they really did. This is great. So I'm excited about your show you have coming up in L.A. How much more touring and stuff do you feel like you're going to be doing, Tom? I mean, I'm in my. Excuse me, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's cool.
So Mike, how much more touring are you going to do for this album? Do you think you're going to go out and do like another leg? What kind of thing?
Yes. Yeah, we are on the road. We're going to take some breaks, and we're starting out at the bottom. I mean, we had a gig the other night at the Park West in Chicago, and for us, it was like Madison Square Garden. It was a sea of people. A lot of the places we're playing are smaller than that right now, and we're building up a little, a following. And I want to keep going. I'd like to get up to where I can play places like the Fillmore West every night, theaters, and get out of the bars maybe. I think we will, but we want to keep working. I picture that we've got gigs booked up through September with breaks in between, and probably stop near the end of the year. I've got enough songs easily for another record, which we could do in 2-3 weeks, and then go out next year. Maybe I'll get back to Europe if things work out, if the economics can be sorted out. I'd love to go back to Europe and take this band over there. But my intention is to just I love to play. I mean, I love being in the studio. I'm still barely, young enough that I can do this really well. And I want to just, do it as long as I can be good at it.
And I think it'll be a long time. I mean, I get the feeling you're like other people like myself who I don't really want to retire. I want to keep doing. I love music and I love radio. So if I can work in it.
Somebody said something to me once. I said I was in Hawaii and I bumped into this guy and he goes, I said, "Are you retired?" He said, "I'm not retired. I'm just tired." So I think that's what'll happen to me. One day I'll just get too tired.
Yeah. I mean, we'll do it as long as we can. But I mean, I think that's amazing. And just a couple last quick things, Mike. So when you're recording the Dirty Knob stuff, you mentioned too with Jeff Lynne, because he likes to record things instrument by instrument. When you look back at the albums you did, going back to the first album, and You're Gonna Get It and things like that, what was the sessions like then? Was there times when you were playing as a rhythm section? How was there a live feel on any of those records in particular where it started, or was it just
the first two records were all live, everybody playing together. We didn't know any other way. And we were so green, we didn't know that you could stop and do another take and cut the tape in where it went bad. we'd have to play the whole song over
Over
again
again, yeah.
to try to not make any mistakes, but that made us really good, I think. And those first two records with all the guys in the room, counting down, playing together, we do a few overdubs to fix it up. And then with Iovine too, it was the live tracking. We weren't doing, we weren't even using click tracks. We were just, working until we got something that sounded good. And then with Jeff, we approached it from his point of view, which is really, I like both ways. I prefer live because there's the chemistry and excitement. But his approach is, to start with the song and build it up and layer it where everything is perfect and rings good together. And that's fun too. And then with Rick Rubin, we kind of went back to, let's get the rhythm section in the room and have a little give and take in these things. So there's all kinds of ways to do it, but I prefer, like with this band I'm in now, the Dirty Knobs, I like to get them in there and have them play all together at the same time. That's when the magic happens.
It is. It's just that great feel, I think it's that
kinetic
thing,
energy.
real kinetic energy, and also it's okay to make a little mistake. Sometimes that's the character of a song, which is great, right?
Oh, that's happened so many times to me where I hit a mistake, and as it's going down, I go, oh no, and I'll go back and listen to it. I got to fix that, and then I'll hear it back and go, no, that's kind of cool.
Exactly,
Leave it alone.
I know. That's those magical moments that are imperfections that are just, that's what makes them perfect and memorable at the same time, right?
I agree.
I'm with you, Mike, I got to tell you, I want to say thank you so much for giving me the time today. It's been a real honor for me because like I said, I've been a fan, since I was a teenager, and just always, you've just been one of my, you're one of my rock and roll heroes, man. And I love that I get to finally talk to you, and as a huge fan, and I'm looking forward to the Dirty Knob show. I will be there.
Can I share one short story with you?
I'd like you to, yes.
Okay, we were talking about Johnny Cash, and I remembered something that I think you'll like.
Yeah.
That really did this to me. Johnny Cash was the shit. He was so deep, and what an aura. Anyway, my dad played him. I was, he was blah, blah, blah. I was a hero of mine. We were on tour. Heartbreakers were on tour in Europe. The Highwaymen were playing on a night off. We went down to see them, and I was brought back to introduced to Johnny Cash. My hero. And I told him, my dad played your records, and I loved him. And I said, my favorite song is "Don't Take Your Guns to Town." And he's going, oh, we're not doing that. We don't do that one. I said, that's okay. And I'm not asking you to play it, but just want you to know that was one of my favorite songs. So then they go up to play. In the middle of the show, Johnny goes, I'd like to do this song for my new friend, Mike. And he played the song.
He just played it on his own, or did he play it with
Well, no, they all joined in, but it wasn't on the set list. And I just thought, that's a kind soul there. That's Johnny Cash for you.
That is so cool. I mean, if we got a minute or two, will also ask you, what were the earliest tours that you guys were doing back in the days when, when you were doing it, in a van or a small bus, whatever you guys were using, passenger bus van? What would be some of the craziest shows that you had done back then? Meaning more like, was there like in a trial and error idea of being on tour? What were some of those learning experiences that they were like, some funny, some not?
I remember you mentioned going over to England the first time in '77, and we were really young and hungry, and we were not the band you wanted to open for you because we were going to take all prisoners, We were like, anyway, our first gig was in Wales, and we're all excited. We're in England. And at the end of the song, me and Tom were running around playing guitars, and it was total Spinal Tap. We got both our guitars caught up in our legs, and we basically just tied ourselves together, and we couldn't move. And the roadies had to come out and untie us. Let me tell you something too before we go out. Since you have expressed, how much you know about the band, you'll be glad to hear this. My drummer Matt Logg in the Dirty Knobs has a commitment in Italy this summer, and so he has to take a leave of absence. And Stan Lynch is going to come in and cover for him. All
right. That's so great to know.
So it's going to be the Dirty Knobs with Stan Lynch on the drums, which will open up a few other songs we can do. So that'll be an event, I think.
That'll be amazing because you can do you can go back to those early albums, which would be amazing.
We could do Psychotic Reaction.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, like I said.
That'll be something to look for. I hope you get to see one of those shows.
Oh, I definitely will. I mean, I absolutely will. I appreciate you sharing the stories with us, Mike, too. I mean, they're...
I appreciate your sincerely, your love for the band is sincere, and I can feel it, and that means a lot to me, and I really appreciate your interview.
Yeah, I thank you for that, Mike.
I've seen you. I've seen you. I know who you are. I've seen you on TV, and I always listen to you.
Yeah.
But this has been very pleasurable, and I hope we see you down the road. Stay safe and stay healthy, and rock and roll forever, man.
Absolutely, rock and roll forever, and all those great records that you made, and all the ones that we've loved growing up that have been a big influence on us, right? And people continue to make like yourself. So, Mike, thanks so much for doing this today.
All right, my pleasure.
It was really a pleasure. I'll see you at the show. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Great having you here, Tom. I mean, Mike, I'm so sorry, dude.
That's okay.
Yeah,
it's just really great talking to you, John.
Yeah, John. Well, that's what you should call me, right? Exactly. No, but I got to tell you, man, I love you, Mike. And
Freudian slip. No insult taken.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
I get it. I do the same thing.
Yeah. It's funny. My mom, who's down in Florida, it's like she always calls me by my brother's name, and I'm just like used to it by now.
Yeah. My mom used to do that all the time too.
Moms do that, right?
I think you should do that with people you love. There you go.
Yeah, that's what it is. You do. That's what it is. Absolutely. Mike, thank you so much, man. It was really great. And I'll see you soon, okay?
All the best to you.
All the best to you, Mike. I'll see you on the road. I'll come say hello.
Good.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Absolutely come back, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
I will.
Bye.
I'll come say hello to you. Bye-bye. Thanks so much, Mike. The new album by Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs is called External Combustion. Make sure you check it out. I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks so much for joining me here on KLOS New and Approved.